My upload that I'm sharing at the moment is with regard to the current condition of the bodily integrity damages that have been occurring since 2016. So this is with regard to those that are practicing remotely, that are practicing unethically, and those that are it's hard to be so blatant about it, but those that have been feckless and irresponsible with regard to their former offences against faith and family. Now, as I've mentioned, the bodily integrity damages have been quite dangerous. The individuals working remotely that have been of spiritual offences in this community that have resulted in horrific outcomes for people in this society are aware of the liabilities that are still to this day damaging my body and still taking it upon themselves, where they have no right whatsoever to be intruding upon my human right to my personal faith, religion, and such. So these individuals in society have been of offences against the state, and they have been of developments that are not lawful. So they've been challenging sacred, they've been challenging many faiths, they've been quite blasphemous, they've abused a few faiths now in the past 5 years, and they haven't worked within the spiritual dimension or principle framework of how faith, religion, spirituality is when these kind of offences against a person's identity, body, anatomy, etc. First commences. So it commenced in 2016 with computer-aided design and a collective spiritual group in this community, and there have been awful outcomes as a consequence of their practices, and they're still insisting and persisting with their offences against faith and family, and it's quite serious. These people aren't obviously spiritually evolved. They have not accepted the concept of powerlessness in the greater scheme of things. They've been of a collective that I've said they've been harmonizing with my spiritual purpose, and they've been disrespecting the source of that purpose. So even on that little premise, there's a little bit of a counterproductive measure being conducted by unprofessional, incompetent human beings. And it's a really sad sign of the times that they're not respecting the spiritual principles, and they're disrespecting other people's belief system as well. They're disrespecting many faiths since 2016, and it's common knowledge what has happened in this community since they first assaulted my light body. So there's been a lot jeopardized, there's been a lot compromised, and there's a lot of contradictions in these people's practices with what they are actually obligated to acknowledge and adhere to. So they're not adhering to the frameworks of faith and family matters with regard to how, to work within a certain framework, respecting the rules of the game, so to speak. There's a set standard of how to practice, and these people are rookies and they have been unprofessional, highly incompetent, and highly irresponsible. So they're disrespecting faith and family, and they're disrespecting centuries old ancestral lines, and they've been of practices that aren't very respectful of those factors that I have a concern for as a royal sacred, as it has jeopardized other people in this community as well. So the issue of these individuals being facilitated in crimes against the state and of treason just highlights a very huge concern that affects women and children's rights. So when they've been damaging women and children's rights, it worsens the picture. The picture has been quite bloodied and tarnished already, as they're fully aware, since 2016, and they've been quite persistent, quite unruly, and quite discourteous to the faith and family principle. There's the courage and bravery concepts that I've alluded to in this situation as well, that have brought about change in this society since 2018, as I keep saying, as a consequence of my humanitarian endeavours. But there's also the fact that there are individuals that are disrespecting faith and family, and they're not working within the paradigm of principles that they're supposed to be acknowledging if they're fully competent, rather than taking shortcuts with remote artificial intelligence tactics. So my bodily integrity, back to 2016, has been assaulted with computer-aided design, and has been assaulted with spiritual violence, and it has been assaulted with artificial intelligent developments of offenders against the state. So this is since 2016. They have not been acting lawfully, ethically, morally, etc. And I've been treating the damages on my own. Now, the state has not reimbursed me for any of the losses that have been incurred as a consequence of these offenders against the state. The state is obligated to reimburse me. And on that much, when I have been assaulted this much, is a little bit of an imbalance with regard to the scales of justice. So the Department of Justice is also aware of my work in society. And there's been a change of the story plot in line, and there's a rewriting of the script occurring to accommodate the culprits of fraud and evasion and of offences against other people's family lives as well. So this is bringing into question the judiciary. Unfortunately, is being disrespected, which I take offence to. The laws that be safeguard everybody when played properly. So the judiciary has been disrespected. So as a consequence now, as a person tolerating these people that have been like liabilities for a long while now, the insistent and persistent efforts of them to continue damaging a royal sacred, wildlife and nature, affecting climate change, disrespecting several faith practices. It's all very serious what I've been confronted with since I became a married mother, and these people have been overconsumed simply with property that they have no right or welcoming from or to. But the point I'm making for this upload is with regard to the individuals that are disrespecting the field of artificial intelligence and bodily integrity damages that they've incurred, that also disrespect the Hippocratic Oath. So they're both intertwined and connected, and the issue of these individuals being facilitated is a crime against humanity. And the very fact that the state has not reimbursed me, and that I'm experiencing impoverishment after working as a humanitarian and an educator for the betterment of society, and as a recovery advocate for sanity and sobriety, the very fact that the government has not fulfilled its obligations, even at a basic level. Constitutional wrongdoings are one serious matter, but to not fulfill its obligations to my royal title, and to threaten my safety or to threaten my child's safety as a consequence of evasion, while having gained and exploited from my work, it kind of disrespects the entire premise of progress. So there's a regression, and there are liabilities and hazards in society that are risking people's families and risking people's futures with their acquisitions and their trespassing and their intruding. So I really hope the United Nations really gets a full grasp of these circumstances. As a language and cultural studies graduate and an anthropologist relaying the facts of these offences, I hope there are individuals sane enough to contravene these liabilities that are working with poor, superficial, shallow developments and challenging centuries-old practices. It's really highlighting a very brazen and disrespectful attitude. Treason isn't safe, and when it's failed on one attempt between 2016 and 2018, that's the first failing, and to continue it's a little bit more dangerous, and they've been making society a bit more dangerous, being persistent. So this is the law of the land. They haven't been playing within the framework of rules, and there are issues with liabilities in this community, in my county, my hometown, that have caused quite a serious problem. And the issue of my child being at risk due to these hazards in society doesn't help the matter. So those that haven't played by the standard principles, our framework of good practice, are risking the outcomes of their actions being worse from where they started in 2016, and it's already been quite negative what they've accomplished. So I hope their negative efforts will be addressed, and I hope the government representatives are aware of what reimbursing is due, or reimbursement with regard to the damages, harms and losses I've experienced, and the damages and harms and losses to my child. That's as much as I'll share for now, but the individuals disrespecting the field of artificial intelligence and academia, and that are hazards to society, risking people's lives with their bad behaviours, are an issue being brought to the attention of the relevant bodies that are obligated to prevent these kind of circumstances from occurring. That's as much as I'll say.